very few people in the world would love climbing and not know David Sharp, the man who feared no mountains and set an example for hundreds of mountain climbing enthusiasts. However, fate didn't have a very happy ending for him, an ending that shocked the whole world and directly questioned climbing ethics. Join us as we look into the life, the unforgettable achievements, and the heartbreaking death of David Sharp, probably one of the greatest mountaineers of all time. Now let's dive straight into the video without further ado. The birth of the legend took place in the town of Harpenden, England on the 15th of February 1972. As a kid, although we know very little of his childhood memories, we expect that David always had an interest in climbing from the start. He would love to explore nature and experience its multifaceted beauty. He would love to climb the nearby hills and read books on mountaineering during late nights, only if he knew mountaineering would become such an inseparable part of his life. As he grew up, David joined Prior Purse-Club College and the University of Nottingham, where he studied medical engineering and got a degree out of it in 1993. After making his contribution to a global security company, he also decided to become a teacher as he resigned from his former position in 2005 and took a teacher's training course as well. Well, that was only his academic life. But Sharp was more than this. He was a natural climber, someone who believed in his natural abilities to climb and never feared the heights. One time during college, he joined the Mountaineering Club to hone his climbing skills. In fact, he took a 6-month sabbatical from his job later on to go on a backpacking trip to South America and Asia. Every step he climbed gave him more confidence and a better understanding of Mother Nature, which he adored more than anything. However, as he grew older, he took mountaineering more seriously and understood what it actually takes to be one. David's first big climbing plan came in 2001 when he planned his expedition to Gletscherbaum 2, an 8,035 meters or 26,362 foot high mountain located on the border between the Gilgit-Baltistan province in Pakistan-administered Kashmir and Xinjiang, China. Fighting back bad weather, David and his team, led by the brave Henry Todd, somehow reached the base of the mountain. But ultimately, the program was called off due to adverse weather conditions. A great moment was missed for David indeed. Although David's first big expedition plan didn't turn out as he expected, it didn't lower his determination to reach the highest of the peaks and explore the immense beauty of nature. So Sharp went on a second expedition, an expedition to climb the humongous Cho Oyu Peak in the Himalayas. It was a climb of 8,201 meters, enough to scare many mountaineers to death. However, that wasn't the case with Sharp. With a team led by the famous Richard Dugan and Jamie McGinnis, Sharp was successful in summiting one of the highest peaks in the world. However, their victory wasn't totally sweet, as one of their team members died from falling into a crevice. But you know how the saying goes, there are always two sides of a coin. Although this tragic accident in the Cho Oyu left a significant mark of a horror in every climber's mind, it also opened up a slot on the group's trip to Mount Everest the following year. And since Dugan was already impressed with Sharp's resilience and mountaineering skills, he offered him a spot in the group expedition right away. However, he was also a bit worried about Sharp's tall and skinny physical appearance with very low body fat, as he knew the importance of body fat in harsh cold weather climbing such as Mount Everest. But Sharp wasn't going to rest just because of that. You already know that, right? Carrying his undying spirit and firm determination, Sharp made his first attempt to summit Mount Everest in 2003 with a team including Richard Dugan, Jamie McGinnis, Terrace Bannon, Martin Duncan, and Stephen Sinnott. But let me tell you, this wasn't an easy climb at all. While McGinnis and Bannon made it to the summit of Everest, the rest of the team had to fall back due to several challenges and obstacles that almost killed them. Mount Everest is the highest peak in the world, resting in the unimaginable conditions of the Himalayas. Situated among probably the harshest weather conditions and too many challenges and obstacles, it invites all those high-altitude climbers who are ready to take the ultimate risk. Climbing Everest is probably a dream of every climber, and sometimes it becomes their nightmares too. With oxygen levels reducing at every meter, sharp cold wind, blood-freezing temperatures, and dozens of extended life risks, Everest is not for beginners, and Sharp proved successfully that he wasn't one. During their summit to Everest in 2003, Dugan was highly impressed by how Sharp had acclimated well and managed steady climbing, proving himself as one of the strongest members of the team. Richard was also heavily impressed with Sharp's friendly and supportive manner and his knack for mountain climbing. However, the climb wasn't a cakewalk for Sharp at all. During his climb, he started to get frostbite and couldn't manage to go much further. However, even in such adverse conditions, he helped a Spanish climber who was heading up and needed oxygen. This brave and careless act earned Sharp the respect and regard of his fellow members. Sharp lost some part of his toe to frostbite on his first summit of Everest, but did it stop him from doing what he loved? Never. Sharp made a second attempt to conquer Everest in 2004, and this time he was more determined, experienced, and willing to take the risk. Sharp had to complete his mission to summit Everest after his failed attempt last time. He was set to climb the highest peak in the world one more time as part of the Franco-Austrian expedition led by none other than the Hugues Daubereed. This was going to be one of the most critical moments in David's life. Despite his natural ability to climb stiff mountains and his incredible acclimatization skills, he wouldn't be able to summit Everest even this time and would have to stay behind at the first step at 8,500 meters or 27,887 feet. However, the summit didn't go in vain, as the team leader Daubereed became the 56th French mountaineer to summit Everest. David was absolutely not satisfied with this attempt and the results of this expedition. His body wasn't spared by frostbite this time as well, since he damaged his fingers in the process. Speaking of the 2004 Everest expedition, Daubereed revealed that he and Sharp had a disagreement on the matter of solo summits and using extra oxygen. Daubereed said that Sharp didn't believe in using extra oxygen and wanted to do solo summits, which he actually did in his life-taking attempt a few years later. In 2005, David quit his job at the security firm and decided to start working as a teacher. For this, he even pursued a teacher's training course. But you know what they say, you cannot change your fate. Sharp's undying love for mountain climbing and mountaineering never stopped tempting him, and he finally decided to finish the unfinished business in 2006 by climbing Everest, and that too alone. Following his disagreement with Daubereed on using extra oxygen, David was set to conquer Everest in his third attempt, and the last one only if he knew. On a solo summit arranged through Asian Trekking, Sharp returned to Everest after 2 years and was determined to summit the highest peak in the world without any extra oxygen. Although these services were available to Sharp at a higher fee, he went with the basic one and as a result was grouped with 13 other solo climbers, including Vitor Negrete and Thomas Weber, who also died while climbing the peak. Sharp's friend and fellow climber Jason McGuinness later revealed that he offered Sharp to join him in his expedition at a discount, but the latter refused and said that he wanted to act independently and climb at his own pace. Sharp did not opt for a Sherpa, carried only 2 bottles of oxygen, which is insufficient for 8 to 12 hours of climb, and didn't even have a radio to call for help in need. Some might say this was a fool's errand, but only David knew what he thought of while laying in his tent. The immense excitement, the freshness to achieve something significant, and that hint of terror mixed together would surely make Sharp overwhelmed. He was transported by a vehicle to the base camp, and his supplements were carried by yak train to the advanced base camp. Sharp had to spend 5 days on the camp to acclimatize himself to those freezing weather conditions and altitude. And finally, the morning came when David had to take the ultimate test. In order to successfully conquer Everest, Sharp had to climb the exit cracks, traverse the northeast ridge, including the 3 steps, reach the summit, and then return to his high camp. It was a very tough task, even for the most seasoned climbers. But Sharp was ready for his final battle with Everest. It was a win-or-lose game, something one needs guts to play. Sharp started his summit on the late evening of the 13th of May, making good progress in the initial stages of the mountain. However, as he went higher, the challenges grew more severe, with the air getting thinner and dozens of symptoms occurring to the climber. Whether Sharp reached the summit or not wasn't known, but it's believed that he was forced to bivouac on the mountain at around 8,500 meters or 27,887 feet near the infamous Green Boots very late on the 14th of May, that too on one of the coldest nights of the season. His location wasn't known as he wasn't climbing with an expedition that would monitor the climber's conditions. Also, since he was doing a solo summit, none of the other climbers were obliged to keep a record of fellow climbers, although maybe they should have. By choosing no extra oxygen, a radio to call for help, and possibly not the best equipment, Sharp made a summit of Everest the most challenging one. Maybe he realized all this while he struggled on the mountain, gathering his will and determination to live a bit more. But it didn't matter, as we lost one of the most amazing climbers that day. David's body remained near the Green Boots for some time, resembling fierce determination and love for mountains, but also a warning for his fellow climbers. However, it was removed out of sight in 2007. With his last battle with Everest, David Sharp left us with many life lessons to live by, such as to be determined in whatever you love, never let your passion grow old, and be friendly and helpful to everyone in need. We don't know whether he summited the great Mount Everest or not, but he surely inspired tons of young climbers to do so. He might have been with us today if he was rescued in time, but going alone was his choice, as his mother says. It was fate, and it comes to you one way or another. For more such videos, make sure to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to like the video while you're at it.